In the grand tapestry of life, flowers bring a splash of color, a breath of freshness, and a whisper of inspiration. Their vibrant hues, intricate designs, and fragrant aromas captivate our senses, reminding us of nature's boundless creativity. Discover the top 10 most beautiful flowers from around the world and learn about their unique traits, symbolism, uses and benefits. Number 10. Sunflower. Scientific name: Helianthus annuus. The common sunflower is an annual herb with a rough hairy stem 1 to 4.5 meters high and broad, coarsely toothed, rough leaves 7.5 to 30 centimeters long arranged in spirals. The attractive heads of flowers are 7.5 to 15 centimeters wide in wild specimens and often 30 centimeters or more in cultivated types. The disc flowers are brown, yellow, or purple, while the petal-like ray flowers are yellow. The fruit is a single-seeded achene. Oilseed varieties typically have small black achenes, while those grown for direct seed consumption, known as confection varieties, have larger black and white achenes that readily separate from the seed within. In the binomial name Helianthus annuus, the genus name is derived from the Greek sun and anthos, flower. The species name annuus means annual in Latin. A common misconception is that flowering sunflower heads track the sun across the sky. Although immature flower buds exhibit this behavior, the mature flowering heads point in a fixed and typically easterly direction throughout the day. This old misconception was disputed in 1597 by the English botanist John Gerard, who grew sunflowers in his famous herbal garden. Some have reported it to turn with the sun, the which I could never observe, although I have endeavored to find out the truth of it. The uniform alignment of sunflower heads in a field might give some people the false impression that the flowers are tracking the sun. This alignment results from heliotropism in an earlier development stage, the young flower stage, before full maturity of flower heads, anthesis. Young sunflowers orient themselves in the direction of the sun. At dawn the head of the flower faces east and moves west throughout the day. When sunflowers reach full maturity they no longer follow the sun, and continuously face east. Young flowers reorient overnight to face east in anticipation of the morning. Their heliotropic motion is a circadian rhythm, synchronized by the sun, which continues if the sun disappears on cloudy days or if plants are moved to constant light. They are able to regulate their circadian rhythm in response to the blue light emitted by a light source. If a sunflower plant in the bud stage is rotated 180 degrees, the bud will be turning away from the sun for a few days, as resynchronization with the sun takes time. The sunflower genome is diploid with a base chromosome number of 17 and an estimated genome size of 2,871 to 3,189 million base pairs. Some sources claim its true size is around 3.5 billion base pairs, slightly larger than the human genome. The plant was first domesticated in the Americas. Sunflowers grow best in fertile, moist, well-drained soil with heavy mulch. They often appear on dry open areas and foothills. Outside of cultivation, the common sunflower is found on moist clay-based soils in areas with climates similar to Texas. In contrast, the related Helianthus debilis and Helianthus petiolaris are found on drier, sandier soils. The precise native range is difficult to determine. According to Plants of the World Online (POWO), it is native to Arizona, California, and Nevada in the present-day United States and to all parts of Mexico except the Gulf Coast and Southeast. Though not giving as great of detail, the Missouri Botanical Garden Plant Finder also lists it as native to the western United States and Canada. The information published by the Biota of North America program largely agrees with this, showing the common sunflower is native to states west of the Mississippi, though also listed as a noxious weed in Iowa, Minnesota, and Texas. Regardless of its original range, it can now be found in almost every part of the world that is not tropical, desert, or tundra. Sunflower, whole seed, Fruit are sold as a snack food, raw or after roasting in ovens, with or without salt and/or seasonings added. Sunflower seeds can be processed into a peanut butter alternative, sunflower butter. It is also sold as food for birds and can be used directly in cooking and salads. Native Americans had multiple uses for sunflowers in the past, such as in bread, medical ointments, dyes and body paints. Sunflower oil, extracted from the seeds, is used for cooking, as a carrier oil and to produce margarine and biodiesel, as it is cheaper than olive oil. A range of sunflower varieties exist with differing fatty acid compositions. Some high oleic types contain a higher level of monounsaturated fats in their oil than even olive oil. The oil is also sometimes used in soap. Number 9. Rose. Scientific name: Rosa rubiginosa. A rose is either a woody perennial flowering plant of the genus Rosa in the family Rosaceae or the flower it bears. There are over 300 species and tens of thousands of cultivars. They form a group of plants that can be erect shrubs, climbing, or trailing, with stems that are often armed with sharp prickles. Their flowers vary in size and shape and are usually large and showy, in colors ranging from white through yellows and reds. Most species are native to Asia, with smaller numbers native to Europe, North America, and northwestern Africa. Species, cultivars and hybrids are all widely grown for their beauty and often are fragrant. Roses have acquired cultural significance in many societies. Rose plants range in size from compact, miniature roses, to climbers that can reach 7 meters in height. Different species hybridize easily, and this has been used in the development of the wide range of garden roses. The name rose comes from Latin rosa, which was perhaps borrowed from Oscan, from Greek rodon rodon, Aeolic brodon rodon, itself borrowed from Old Persian wrd, wardi, related to Avestan var delta a, Sogdian ward, Parthian war. The flowers of most species have 5 petals, with the exception of Rosa omiensis and Rosa sericea, which usually have only 4. Each petal is divided into 2 distinct lobes and is usually white or pink, though in a few species yellow or red. Beneath the petals are 5 sepals, or in the case of some Rosa omiensis and Rosa sericea, 4. These may be long enough to be visible when viewed from above and appear as green points alternating with the rounded petals. There are multiple superior ovaries that develop into achenes. Roses are insect-pollinated in nature. The aggregate fruit of the rose is a berry-like structure called a rose hip. Many of the domestic cultivars do not produce hips, as the flowers are so tightly petaled that they do not provide access for pollination. The hips of most species are red, but a few, for example Rosa pimpinellifolia, have dark purple to black hips. Each hip comprises an outer fleshy layer, the hypanthium, which contains 5 to 160 seeds, technically dry single-seeded fruits called achenes, embedded in a matrix of fine, but stiff, hairs. Rose hips of some species, especially the dog rose, Rosa canina, and rugosa rose, Rosa rugosa, are very rich in vitamin C, among the richest sources of any plant. The sharp growths along a rose stem, though commonly called thorns, are technically prickles, outgrowths of the epidermis, the outer layer of tissue of the stem, unlike true thorns, which are modified stems. Rose prickles are typically sickle-shaped hooks, which aid the rose in hanging onto other vegetation when growing over it. Roses are best known as ornamental plants grown for their flowers in the garden and sometimes indoors. They have been also used for commercial perfumery and commercial cut flower crops. Some are used as landscape plants, for hedging and for other utilitarian purposes such as game cover and slope stabilization. The majority of ornamental roses are hybrids that were bred for their flowers. A few, Mostly species roses are grown for attractive or scented foliage, such as Rosa glauca and Rosa rubiginosa, ornamental thorns, such as Rosa sericea, or for their showy fruit, such as Rosa moyacea. Ornamental roses have been cultivated for millennia, with the earliest known cultivation known to date from at least 500 BC in Mediterranean countries, Persia, and China. It is estimated that 30 to 35,000 rose hybrids and cultivars have been bred and selected for garden use as flowering plants. Most are double-flowered, with many or all of the stamens having morphed into additional petals. Number 8. Cherry blossom. Scientific name: Prunus cerulata. The cherry blossom, or sakura, is the flower of trees in Prunus subgenus Cerasus. Sakura usually refers to flowers of ornamental cherry trees, such as cultivars of Prunus cerulata, not trees grown for their fruit, although these also have blossoms. Cherry blossoms have been described as having a vanilla-like smell, which is mainly attributed to coumarin. Wild species of cherry tree are widely distributed, mainly in the northern hemisphere. They are common in East Asia, especially in Japan, where they have been cultivated, producing many varieties. Most of the ornamental cherry trees planted in parks and other places for viewing are cultivars developed for ornamental purposes from various wild species. In order to create a cultivar suitable for viewing, a wild species with characteristics suitable for viewing is needed. Prunus speciosa, Oshima cherry, which is endemic to Japan, produces many large flowers, is fragrant, easily mutates into double flowers and grows rapidly. The Japanese word sakura can mean either the tree or its flowers. The cherry blossom is considered the national flower of Japan, and is central to the custom of hanami. Japanese cherry trees grown in the southern hemisphere will bloom at a different time of the year. For example, in Australia, while the trees in the Kaura Japanese garden bloom in late September to mid-October, the Sydney Cherry Blossom Festival is in late August. Cherry blossoms are a frequent topic in waka composition, where they commonly symbolize impermanence. Due to their characteristic of blooming en masse, cherry blossoms are considered an enduring metaphor for the ephemeral nature of life. Cherry blossoms frequently appear in Japanese art, manga, anime, and film, as well as stage set designs for musical performances. The traditional symbolism of cherry blossoms as a metaphor for the ephemeral nature of life is associated with the influence of Shinto, embodied in the concept of mono no aware, the pathos of things. The connection between cherry blossoms and mono no aware dates back to 18th century scholar Motori Norinaga. The transience of the blossoms, their beauty, and their volatility have often been associated with mortality and the graceful and ready acceptance of destiny and karma. All wild cherry trees produce small, unpalatable fruit or edible cherries. However, some cultivars have structural modifications to render the plant unable to naturally reproduce. For example, Prunus cerulata, Hisakura, Ichio, and Prunus cerulata, Albo rosea, Makino Fugenzo, which originated from the Oshima cherry, have a modified pistil that develops into a leaf-like structure, and can only be propagated by artificial methods such as grafting and cutting. Cherry trees grown for their fruit are generally cultivars of the related species Prunus avium, Prunus cerasus, and Prunus fruticosa. Many cherry species and cultivars bloom between March and April in the northern hemisphere. Wild cherry trees, even if they are the same species, differ genetically from one individual to another. Even if they are planted in the same area, there is some variation in the time when they reach full bloom. In contrast, cultivars are clones propagated by grafting or cutting, so each tree of the same cultivar planted in the same area will come into full bloom all at once due to their genetic similarity. Number 7 Peony. Scientific name: Paeonia. The peony or peony is a flowering plant in the genus Paeonia, the only genus in the family Peoniaceae. Peonies are native to Asia, Europe, and western North America. Scientists differ on the number of species that can be distinguished, ranging from 25 to 40, although the current consensus describes 33 known species. The relationships between the species need to be further clarified. Most are herbaceous perennial plants 0.25 to 1 meter tall, but some are woody shrubs 0.25 to 3.5 meters tall. They have compound, deeply lobed leaves and large, often fragrant flowers, in colors ranging from purple and pink to red, white or yellow, in late spring and early summer. The flowers have a short blooming season, usually only 7 to 10 days. Peonies are popular garden plants in temperate regions. Herbaceous peonies are also sold as cut flowers on a large scale, although generally only available in late spring and early summer. The genus Paeonia naturally occurs in the temperate and cold areas of the northern hemisphere. The section Mutan, which includes all woody species, is restricted in the wild to central and southern China, including Tibet. The section Onypia consists of 2 herbaceous species and is present in the west of North America, P. brownie between southern British Columbia and the Sierra Nevada in California, and eastward to Wyoming and Utah, while P. californica is limited to the coastal mountains of southern and central California. The section Paeonia, which comprises all other herbaceous species, occurs in a band stretching roughly from Morocco and Spain to Japan. One species of the section Paeonia, P. animala, has by far the largest distribution, which is also north of the distribution of the other species, from the Kola Peninsula in northwest Russia, to Lake Baikal in Siberia and south to the Tian Shan Mountains of Kazakhstan. The rest of the section concentrates around the Mediterranean, and in Asia. The herb known as Paeonia, in particular the root of Paeonia lactiflora, has been used frequently in traditional medicines of Korea, China and Japan. In Japan, Paeonia lactiflora used to be called ebisugusuri, for in medicine, its root was used as a treatment for convulsions. In Japan, Paeonia subfruticosa is called the king of flowers, and Paeonia lactiflora is called the prime minister of flowers. In China, the fallen petals of Paeonia lactiflora are parboiled and sweetened as a tea-time delicacy. Peony water, an infusion of peony petals, was used for drinking in the Middle Ages. The petals may be added to salads or to punches and lemonades. Number 6 Orchid. Scientific name: Orchidaceae. Orchids are plants that belong to the family Orchidaceae, a diverse and widespread group of flowering plants with blooms that are often colorful and fragrant. Orchids are cosmopolitan plants that are found in almost every habitat on Earth except glaciers. The world's richest diversity of orchid genera and species is found in the tropics. Orchids are easily distinguished from other plants, as they share some very evident derived characteristics or synapomorphies. Among these are bilateral symmetry of the flower, zygomorphism, many resupinate flowers, a nearly always highly modified petal, labellum, fused stamens and carpels, and extremely small seeds. Orchid flowers have 3 sepals, 3 petals and a 3-chambered ovary. The 3 sepals and 2 of the petals are often similar to each other, but one petal is usually highly modified, forming a lip, or labellum. In most orchid genera, as the flower develops, it undergoes a twisting through 180 degrees, called resupination, so that the labellum lies below the column. The labellum functions to attract insects, and in resupinate flowers, also acts as a landing stage, or sometimes a trap. The reproductive parts of an orchid flower are unique in that the stamens and style are joined to form a single structure, the column. Instead of being released singly, thousands of pollen grains are contained in one or two bundles called pollinia that are attached to a sticky disc near the top of the column. Just below the pollinia is a second, larger sticky plate called the stigma. The dried seed pods of one orchid genus, vanilla, especially Vanilla planifolia, are commercially important as a flavoring in baking, for perfume manufacture and aromatherapy. The underground tubers of terrestrial orchids, mainly Orchis mascula, early purple orchid, are ground to a powder and used for cooking, such as in the hot beverage Tulip or in the Turkish mastic ice cream dondurma. The name Tulip has been claimed to come from the Arabic expression hasu al-thalab, fox testicles, but it appears more likely the name comes directly from the Arabic name salab. The similarity in appearance to testes naturally accounts for Tulip being considered an aphrodisiac. The dried leaves of Jumelea fragrans are used to flavor rum on Reunion Island. Number 5. Lotus. Scientific name: Nelumba nucifera. Nelumba nucifera, also known as sacred lotus, Indian lotus, or simply lotus, is one of two extant species of aquatic plant in the family Nelumbonaceae. It is sometimes colloquially called a water lily, though this more often refers to members of the family Nymphaceae. Lotus plants are adapted to grow in the flood plains of slow-moving rivers and delta areas. Stands of lotus drop hundreds of thousands of seeds every year to the bottom of the pond. While some sprout immediately and most are eaten by wildlife, the remaining seeds can remain dormant for an extensive period of time as the pond silts in and dries out. During flood conditions, sediments containing these seeds are broken open, and the dormant seeds rehydrate and begin a new lotus colony. Under favorable circumstances, the seeds of this aquatic perennial may remain viable for many years, with the oldest recorded lotus germination being from seeds 1,300 years old recovered from a dry lakebed in northeastern China. Therefore, the Chinese regard the plant as a symbol of longevity. It has a very wide native distribution, ranging from central and northern India, at altitudes up to 1,400 meters or 4,600 feet in the southern Himalayas, through northern Indochina and East Asia, north to the Amur region. The Russian populations have sometimes been referred to as Nelumba Komarovi, with isolated locations at the Caspian Sea. Today, the species also occurs in southern India, Sri Lanka, virtually all of Southeast Asia, New Guinea, and northern and eastern Australia, but this is probably the result of human translocations. It has a very long history, circa 3,000 years, of being cultivated for its edible seeds and is commonly cultivated in water gardens. It is the national flower of India and Vietnam. The lotus roots are planted in pond or river bottom soil, while the leaves float on the water's surface or are held well above it. The leaf stalk's petioles can be up to 200 centimeters, 6 feet 7 inches long, allowing the plant to grow in water to that depth. The peltate leaf blade or lamina can have a horizontal spread of 1 meter, 3 feet 3 inches. The leaves may be as large as 80 centimeters, 31 inches in diameter. The flowers are usually found on thick stems rising several centimeters above the leaves. They are showy and grow up to 30 centimeters, 12 inches in diameter, but 14 inches, 35 centimeters has been frequently reported. Some cultivated varieties have extraordinary numbers of petals. For example, the Chinese variety Qian Ban Lian, 1,000 petals lotus, can have between 3,000 and 4,000 petals in a single blossom, and the Japanese variety Ohmi Myorin, strange lotus, can have between 2,000 and 5,000 petals, the greatest number recorded for any species of plant. Nelumba nucifera is a lotus species with historical, cultural and spiritual significance. It is a sacred flower in both Hinduism and Buddhism, representing the path to spiritual awakening and enlightenment. In Christianity, the lotus flower is often associated with the Apostle Thomas and his coming to India. The lotus flower is also mentioned in the Bible. In Asian art, a lotus throne is a stylized lotus flower used as the seat or base for a figure. It is the normal pedestal for divine figures in Buddhist art and Hindu art and is often seen in Jain art. Originating in Indian art, it followed Indian religions to East Asia in particular. Lotus flowers are also often held by figures. Number 4. Lavender. Scientific name: Lavandula. Lavender, genus of about 30 species of plants in the mint family Lamiaceae, native to countries bordering the Mediterranean. Lavender species are common in herb gardens for their fragrant leaves and attractive flowers. The plants are widely cultivated for their essential oils, which are used to scent a variety of products. The dried flowers, for example, have long been used in sachets to scent chests and closets, and the ancient Romans used lavender in their baths. Lavender is sometimes also used to flavor beverages and sweets and has a number of applications in herbal medicine. English lavender, Lavandula angustifolia, French lavender, Lavandula stoiches, and woolly lavender, Lavandula lanata, are among the most widely cultivated species. Lavenders are small evergreen shrubs with gray-green hoary linear leaves. The purple flowers are sparsely arranged on spikes at the tips of long bare stalks and produce small nutlet fruits. The fragrance of the plant is caused by shining oil glands embedded among tiny star-shaped trichomes, plant hairs, that cover the flowers, leaves, and stems. The plants in cultivation do not usually produce seed, and propagation is accomplished by cuttings or by dividing the roots. Flowers are contained in whorls, held on spikes rising above the foliage, the spikes being branched in some species. Some species produce colored bracts at the tips of the inflorescences. The flowers may be blue, violet, or lilac in the wild species, occasionally blackish purple or yellowish. The sepal calyx is tubular. The corolla is also tubular, usually with 5 lobes, the upper lip often cleft, and the lower lip has 2 clefts. The English word lavender came into use in the 13th century, and is generally thought to derive from Old French lavandre, ultimately from Latin lavare from lavo, to wash, referring to the use of blue infusions of the plants. The botanic name lavandula as used by Linnaeus is considered to be derived from this and other European vernacular names for the plants. Lavenders flourish best in dry, well-drained, sandy or gravelly soils in full sun. English lavender has a long germination process, 14 to 28 days, and matures within 100 to 110 days. All types need little or no fertilizer and good air circulation. In areas of high humidity, root rot due to fungus infection can be a problem. Organic mulches can trap moisture around the plant's bases, encouraging root rot. Gravelly materials such as crushed rocks give better results. It grows best in soils with a pH between 6 and 8. Most lavender is hand-harvested, and harvest times vary depending on intended use. Number 3. Daffodil. Scientific name: Narcissus pseudonarcissus. Daffodil is a bulb-forming plant in the Amaryllis family, Amaryllidaceae, widely cultivated for its trumpet-like flowers. Daffodils are native to northern Europe and are grown in temperate climates around the world. The daffodil's popularity has resulted in the production of many varieties. In addition to the classic yellow form, the trumpet and petals may themselves be of contrasting yellow, white, pink, or orange. The daffodil is a perennial and grows to about 41 centimeters (16 inches) in height. Each plant features 5 or 6 linear leaves that grow from the bulb and are about 30 centimeters (12 inches) long. The stem bears one large yellow blossom with a corolla deeply cleft into 6 lobes and a central bell-shaped crown, or corona, that is frilled at its edges. This trumpet shape contains the stamens and is the flower's most conspicuous feature. The daffodil is the national flower of Wales and the symbol of cancer charities in many countries. The appearance of wild flowers in spring is associated with festivals in many places. The flowers of narcissus are hermaphroditic, bisexual, have 3 parts tripartite, and are sometimes fragrant. The flower symmetry is actinomorphic, radial, to slightly zygomorphic, bilateral, due to declinate ascending stamens curving downwards, then bent up at the tip. Narcissus flowers are characterized by their, usually conspicuous, corona trumpet. The fruit consists of dehiscent loculicidal capsules, splitting between the locules, that are ellipsoid to subglobose, almost spherical, in shape, and are papery to leathery in texture. The fruit contains numerous subglobose seeds which are round and swollen with a hard coat, sometimes with an attached elaeosome. The testa is black and the pericarp dry. Most species have 12 ovules and 36 seeds, although some species such as Narcissus bulbocodium have more, up to a maximum of 60. Seeds take 5 to 6 weeks to mature. The seeds of sections Jonquia and bulbocodium are wedge-shaped and matte black, while those of other sections are ovate and glossy black. A gust of wind or contact with a passing animal is sufficient to disperse the mature seeds. Number 2. Tulip. Scientific name: Tulip gesneriana. Tulips are spring-blooming perennial herbaceous bulbiferous geophytes in the Tulipa genus. Their flowers are usually large, showy, and brightly colored, generally red, orange, pink, yellow, or white. They often have a different colored blotch at the base of the tepals, internally. Because of a degree of variability within the populations and a long history of cultivation, classification has been complex and controversial. The tulip is a member of the lily family, Liliaceae, along with 14 other genera, where it is most closely related to Amana, Erythronium, and Gaja in the tribe Liliaceae. There are about 75 species, and these are divided among 4 subgenera. The name, tulip, is thought to be derived from a Persian word for turban, which it may have been thought to resemble by those who discovered it. Tulips were originally found in a band stretching from southern Europe to Central Asia, but since the 17th century have become widely naturalized and cultivated. The tulip's flowers are usually large and are actinomorphic, radially symmetric, and hermaphrodite, contain both male androecium and female gynoecium characteristics, generally erect, or more rarely pendulous, and are arranged more usually as a single terminal flower. Or when pluriflor is 2 to 3, e.g. Tulipa turkstanica, but up to 4, flowers on the end of a floriferous stem, scape, which is single arising from amongst the basal leaf rosette. In structure, the flower is generally cup or star-shaped. The tulip's fruit is a globose or ellipsoid capsule with a leathery covering and an ellipsoid to globe shape. Each capsule contains numerous flat, disc-shaped seeds in 2 rows per chamber. These light to dark brown seeds have very thin seed coats and endosperm that do not normally fill the entire seed. The great majority of tulips, both species and cultivars, have no discernible scent, but a few of both are scented to a degree, and Anna Pavard describes Tulip hungarica as strongly scented, and among cultivars, some such as Monte Carlo and brown sugar are scented, and cream upstar, fragrant. Number 1. Dahlia. Scientific name: Dahlia pinnata. Dahlia is a genus of bushy, tuberous, herbaceous perennial plants native to Mexico and Central America. As a member of the Asteraceae, synonym name, Compositae family of dicotyledonous plants, its relatives include the sunflower, daisy, chrysanthemum, and zinnia. There are 49 species of dahlia, with flowers in almost every hue except blue, with hybrids commonly grown as garden plants. Dahlias are perennial plants with tuberous roots, though they are grown as annuals in some regions with cold winters. While some have herbaceous stems, others have stems which lignify in the absence of secondary tissue and resprout following winter dormancy, allowing further seasons of growth. As a member of the Asteraceae, the dahlia has a flower head that is actually a composite, hence the older name Compositae, with both central disc florets and surrounding ray florets. Each floret is a flower in its own right, but is often incorrectly described as a petal. The modern name Asteraceae refers to the appearance of a star with surrounding rays.